Ask a group of unrelated people how all the life in the universe was created, and they would each probably give you a different answer. Ask someone with a scientific background and they'll tell you the universe was birthed after the Big Bang, and that life gradually evolved on Earth over millions of years. Or if you were to ask someone of the Christian faith, they might tell you that God created the entire universe in 6 days, every planet, star, even giving life to every single creature, then took Sunday off. Every belief system since the dawn of humanity, whether monotheistic, pantheistic, or even atheistic, have had their own creation stories and myths. And then there's the answer that a member of the Church of the Broken God would give you. And trust us, it's far more complicated. Just in case you've never heard them mentioned before, the Church of the Broken God is an anomalous religious organization and group of interest. The SCP Foundation has actually had a number of encounters with the Church over the years, and we'll get to why that is in a moment. Members of the Church share in the belief that life, specifically biological flesh-based life like that of human beings, is inherently wrong, a direct product of evil. Their religion focuses on the worship of mechanization, which is the process of making something or someone more mechanical in nature. So what do members of the Church believe created life in the universe? Well, according to their beliefs, in the beginning there were 2 ancient and powerful beings, named Yaldabaoth and Mechane, who created humanity together. Yaldabaoth was the god of flesh and animal instinct, granting human bodies, while Mechane, the god of machine and intellect, blessed man with the power of free thought. As humankind developed, its civilization began building machines. This enraged Yaldabaoth, seeing that the humans were ignoring the instincts she had bestowed upon them. As a result, she swore to destroy all the creations of man, seeking to revert them back to the animalistic state she had intended for them. According to the Church's legend, Mechane acted as humanity's savior and intervened to stop Yaldabaoth. The god of machine shattered himself, transforming his metal body into a number of pieces to form a cage for his fellow god. These fragments of Mechane's body rained down on planet Earth, scattered and lost. The Church of the Broken God believes it is their duty, their only true purpose, to recover those pieces. As such, the Church is devoted to the worship of Mechane, their broken god that lies in fragments scattered across the world. Often using anomalous technology, members of the Church of the Broken God intend to uncover or steal these various components. The Church's ultimate goal is to bring the correct pieces together and eventually restore Mechane's form. It is their hope that he will guide them to intellectual enlightenment and bless them with new mechanical forms so that they can discard their mortal bodies of flesh and blood and ascend to a fully mechanized way of life. The one problem is that there could be potentially hundreds of pieces required in order to rebuild Mechane. He cannot lead the Church to glory and defeat Yaldabaoth once and for all with parts still missing. A number of these pieces have already surfaced as cataloged SCPs that the Foundation is either aware of or has in containment. Among them are SCP-882, or His Broken Heart, to the Church, SCP-271, His Broken Gift, SCP-813, His Broken Eyes, SCP-1139, His Broken Tongue, SCP-635, His Broken Mind, and finally, His Broken Blood, which refers to SCP-217. And then there's SCP-3179, sometimes referred to as the Seed. In 1909, a meteor shower rained over Dellington, a tiny village in England, but something else fell with the meteors. Something otherworldly. It was made out of liquid metal, its form constantly shifting and shimmering, never staying at the same mass or held in the same shape for long. The object, whatever it was, quickly fell into the possession of a group known as the Cogwork Orthodoxy. You see, within the religion of the Church of the Broken God, there exists a number of splinter factions that, ironically, broke away from the main church. One such group, referred to as the Cogwork Orthodox Church, augment their own bodies through mechanical implants. However, we aren't talking microchips. The Cogwork Orthodox Church will only use technology from the late Industrial Revolution, as they think it is more fitting of their god, Mechane. So what does this object, SCP-3179, have to do with all these tales of mechanical churches and broken gods? SCP-3179 is capable of extending its mass, forming long, rod-like metal structures that protrude from its central mass. These rods are then used to create smaller entities, referred to as SCP-3179-1. These entities might lack the ability to expand or change shape the same way that SCP-3179 can, but they are specialized for a wide range of functions. The SCP-3179-1 creations are usually designed to help free SCP-3179 from its containment, and will obey this purpose without exception. Yet somehow they do not appear capable of communicating with the main body that they were created from. While SCP-3179 remains as a constant mass of liquid metal, the entities it creates are able to simulate an exterior organic appearance. In other words, they look like they are alive. Still struggling to find out why the Cogwork Orthodoxy and the Church of the Broken God would be so interested in this thing? Well, maybe this will answer that burning question. Warranty Silas, one of the members of the Cogwork Orthodoxy that recovered SCP-3179, thought the metallic object was the seed of methane. According to the beliefs of the Church, this liquid metal entity would one day expand to form the offspring of their broken god. Perhaps hoping to protect the future child of their faith's deity, the Cogwork Orthodoxy constructed a containment bunker around SCP-3179 in 1917. At first, this sturdy container seemed to have done its job, possibly having even been made using anomalous methods or properties to keep SCP-3179 in place. For over 100 years, it successfully held the entity and restricted its ability to grow. However, the unit has since been damaged by multiple attempts by the entity to breach its containment, and will likely fail completely within the next 5 years. You see, SCP-3179 isn't just alive, but sentient. The liquid metal entity has displayed an extremely high level of intelligence, although not through direct communication. It shows its intelligence through its evolving tactics, changing the shape of its mass or creating more instances of SCP-3179-1 to aid in its escape. In fact, the so-called Seed of Methane is so vastly intelligent in its strategies and relentless in its goal to breach its containment, that in 2016 most of the containment unit built around it had been destroyed. The Cogwork Orthodoxy had no choice but to directly contact the SCP Foundation and appeal to them to take over the containment of SCP-3179. Even after this exchange, the Foundation still had significant trouble keeping the entity contained. They couldn't transport it, instead assigning a mobile task force, Zeta-10, codenamed Death Metal, to monitor SCP-3179's growth. If a section of its body expanded too far beyond an acceptable level, these personnel had to step in and sever it from the main body of SCP-3179. Any part sliced, severed, or otherwise removed from the liquid metal mass still continues to grow for several hours after its removal. However, this growth eventually stops, and these pieces are left inert and lifeless. For example, on one occasion in late December of 2016, SCP-3179 grew a number of metal supports from its main body, not unlike multiple pairs of legs. Before the entity could use these new appendages to pull itself free and escape its containment, members of MTF Death Metal stepped in and severed them before they could fully grow. A few weeks later, in January of 2017, SCP-3179 tried a similar strategy, growing structures resembling propellers on top of its body and attempting to attain flight. Once again, Death Metal did what they do best and clipped SCP-3179's wings. It later produced instances of SCP-3179-1 in the form of numerous flying drones that it tried to use to fly away from the containment zone. MTF Zeta-10 was able to shoot these entities down, forcing SCP-3179 to once again alter its tactics. Next, it produced a number of sound-emitting structures from its central mass and used them to mimic the voices of a number of MTF Zeta-10 members. The metallic creature attempted to plead with the Foundation's operatives in the voices of their colleagues, claiming that they had become trapped inside the liquid metal. After no result, a day later SCP-3179 began to use the same structures to emit screams of the same MTF Zeta-10 troops. This time, the voices claimed that SCP-3179 was killing them and begged to be set free. Once again, the Foundation's personnel remained at their posts, though this breach attempt apparently added a lot more job stress to the role. SCP-3179 even on multiple occasions produced instances of SCP-3179-1 that were identical to existing MTF Zeta-10 members, trying to convince the others that the entity should be released from its containment zone. At one point, it was even able to use tiny SCP-3179-1s to replace the internal organs of one of the MTF Zeta-10 members in his sleep, with entirely mechanical components. On the outside, the man looked to be human, his eyes, skin, and tongue all organic. But inside he had been made a puppet of SCP-3179 and sent off to sabotage a number of systems involved in the entity's containment. Luckily, the Foundation's forces were able to stop this new instance of SCP-3179-1 and terminated him. Of course, this all begs the question, why would the Cogwork Orthodoxy hand SCP-3179 over to the Foundation? If the seed of Mechane was so sacred to them, so important to their belief system, then why give it to another organization? You could argue that the Cogwork Orthodoxy were admitting that they weren't as well equipped as the Foundation are when it comes to containing anomalies, or that they'd rather the future offspring of Mechane was best kept as safe as possible. But that is if you even believe that SCP-3179 really is the seed of Mechane. While growing in its containment, the entity showed to be considerably hostile towards the members of the church that curated it. It even caused a number of casualties, killing many that wanted to protect it on behalf of Mechane. Additionally, the metallic mass wouldn't change its state whenever they would read scripture related to the broken god. In fact, it showed little reaction at all to any displays of faith from the Cogwork Orthodoxy. Surely Mechane's own offspring wouldn't have behaved in such a way. Unless, of course, SCP-3179 wasn't the seed of Mechane at all. What if this entity was an imposter, oblivious of the beliefs of the Church of the Broken God? And given how intelligent it had shown itself to be, surely SCP-3179 would know to take advantage of the faith of those that had tried to procure it. On the 2nd of June 2017, SCP-3179 produced a number of metal tablets from itself and dispersed them throughout the containment area surrounding it. Each tablet had the same inscription written on it. Humans must obey the ruling of gods. The Mechane is a god. The Mechane is a powerful entity of steel and industry. I am a powerful entity of steel and industry. Therefore, I am Mechane. Therefore, I am a god. Therefore, you will release me. It is entirely possible that SCP-3179 was indeed a part of Mechane, the ancient broken god and deity to the Church and the Cogwork Orthodoxy. But then again, this entity showed intelligence and adaptability, as well as hostility towards the human beings around it. Perhaps this so-called seed of Mechane was nothing more than a false prophet, trying to use the faith of the Church to ensure its own escape. It doesn't get much craftier than that. Now go check out SCP-001 The Broken God Ouroboros Cycle, and what actually happened to Major Alexei Belatrov SCP-2273 Tale for more lore from the Church of the Broken God.